Roman hook. Headed. Batted in! BYU scores!
Let's get it. Let's get it. Rockin' Royal. Rockin' Navy. Know y'all with me. Let's get it, baby. Rockin' Royal. Rockin' Navy. Know you with me. Let's get it, baby. Boys just came back from their mission. We going crazy.
Welcome back to another edition of the Rockin' Royal Soccer Show here on KSL.com, the KSL.com podcast network. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but I'm making that up on the fly, as I tend to do over here on this here podcast, because we're on the internet. Everything's official once it's on the internet. Sean Walker from KSL.com here, as always, joined by my esteemed color analyst. I'm going to call you the color analyst of the podcast, more notably color analyst for ESPN Plus. You also saw her working some Utah Royals FC the past couple of matches as they ride their 4-match unbeaten run. So shout out to Brecken Mazingo and the Utah Royals a little bit to start this podcast. Carla Swensen-Haslem joining me, slumming down from her ESPN Plus broadcast to talk some BYU soccer on the pod. Carla, as always, thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Love to be here. You're right. There's been a lot of soccer in the last, I feel like, 72 hours. There's so many things to break down and so many things to discuss. So let's get to it.
When it comes in waves, but it's better than not coming at all, I guess, right? In a lot of ways. So 2-game week for BYU last week. That's the main thing we're going to discuss. Although you're right, there has been a lot of soccer just in the last, really this last week was kind of loaded. It helps, I think, that Jimmy Cohenretz and his club has seemingly found a little bit of their footing up in the NWSL. But moving down some, BYU women's soccer lost their footing to start the week, taking their first loss of the year at Southfield Tuesday night, 1-0 to number 13 Arkansas. We'll use the ranking system from last week until new ones come out, I believe, tomorrow at time of recording. We're recording this on a Monday. So number 13 Arkansas 1, number 11 BYU 0. A game that flipped on its head a couple of times. BYU had a lot of possession at moments. Arkansas had even more possession at moments. Razorbacks get the goal off of a set piece. And I feel like the story of this match, Carla, I know this is mostly a BYU podcast. We're going to talk BYU here. But the story of this match really was Keegan Smith, who just had an incredible night for the Razorbacks, a career-high tying 9 saves overall. She was everywhere Tuesday and really, I think, made BYU pay in a lot of ways so that the Hawks could come in and get what the pros like to call a little bit of a smash and grab win with an 81st minute goal.
Agreed. It became very evident in watching that game that Keegan Smith was the best player on that field as the goalkeeper, and no surprise why she has been, called up multiple times to represent Team USA on the youth national teams as a goalkeeper. She really kept the Razorbacks in that game. BYU had some incredible shots and some incredible 1v1 opportunities. There were balls that I was certain were going to find the back of the net because they were coming off of crosses right on top of the 6-yard box. And I saw Keegan Smith making saves that I have not seen a college goalkeeper make before. And so she is definitely someone that I think will be playing professionally, that will continue to have success at the youth and national team level. And the incredible thing is because she kept her team in it, she gave her team a chance. Arkansas likewise had some good looks. You're right, it did oscillate. It felt like Arkansas would have these moments where they were the better team, and then there would be moments where BYU looked like the better team. And it very much felt like a tennis match because the ball would go from one end to the other and create one dangerous opportunity for BYU. And then Smith would then send it long. Smith never built out of the back, by the way. She did not pass it to her defensive line one time in the entire 90 minutes. She just sent it long every single time, and Arkansas would then get into the attack again. And so it really was 120 yards to 120 yards. the entire match. But she kept her team in it and allowed them to get that one goal that helped them get the win. And then they were able to close it out after that. I give Arkansas full credit because after they got that goal, they closed. And, that's the making of a great team is if you can get ahead and then keep that lead.
Yeah, it's a top 10 team, a team that's challenged itself, I think, during this season. That was the fourth match against a ranked opponent in the first 5 or 6 matches this season for Arkansas. So doing a little bit of the Jen Rockwood model of scheduling and really challenging themselves early on and challenging themselves big time. BYU, you mentioned the tennis match, put up 21 shots in this game. 9 of them on goal, but still a 9 for 21 investment rate. Not as clinical, I think, as this BYU team is used to playing, or not quite as clinical as they're used to playing. Still pretty decent, if not. Again, the story of this match goes to Keegan Smith. I want to give her all the credit in the world. I really thought she was the biggest player, the best player on the field for long stretches, if not the full 90 minutes out there. But those nine shots on goal just felt at times like it wasn't BYU necessarily playing its game. They were playing a lot of Arkansas's game, a lot of those long balls over the top, a lot of that active, run at the back line. It's not how BYU likes to play. And I don't even think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. Some of my favorite teams have been some of those athletic, boot the ball and go. How long did Abby Wambach just make a living out of her professional career with that style of play, right? And it worked, and the U.S. women's national team won a lot of games and a lot of World Cups because of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily, but it's just not how BYU likes to play. Do you feel like Arkansas maybe kind of, I know it was at Southfield, I know it was sold out, I know it should have been a home game for BYU, but do you feel like maybe Arkansas kind of took BYU a little bit out of its comfort zone in some ways and kind of forced them to play Razorback soccer instead of BYU soccer?
I think there were moments where BYU got a little disorganized, and perhaps it's because the style of play was so direct. I also think BYU towards the end, because they started to feel that urgency of needing to get a goal, started also playing a more direct style of soccer. And you're correct in saying it's not a bad thing. There are some teams that can play that more direct style and it works really well. I mean, we were just talking about NWSL play. I think of Kansas City is at the top of the table. They are going to win the, NWSL national championship at the end of this season, and they play very direct style of soccer. So it works. Right. And if you have the right players in the right forward line, it's going to work. But you're right. I don't think BYU, because they haven't played much of that this season, and they haven't found themselves urgently trying to get a goal late in the game, with the exception of maybe some exhibition matches. I think they were put under a bit more pressure than they have been, just given the circumstances. And like I said, I think BYU did play well and did create a lot of offensive looks. So I would not say that BYU played poorly. I would not say that at all. I think they played well. I think Keegan Smith just is an incredible goalkeeper. Um, I think it was just one of those weird games where Arkansas really prepared and strategically made changes and formational changes and subbed a lot. Arkansas subbed a ton in that game, and I think that was done purposefully to try to keep the energy high. And so, matchup for matchup, I think BYU was perhaps a bit more uncomfortable than they've been in other games.
Yeah, 100%. It wasn't like, I mean, this was a great match. This was a match between top 15 teams. The team that, in my opinion, is the top 10 team ended up winning out on the day, even if it was 1-0 on the road. This Arkansas squad is top 10. I mean, they were coming off of a loss and knocked them down to number 13 in the coaches poll, but that loss was at home
Yeah.
to a top 3 program in Duke.
Yeah, I think they're a top 5 program. I mean, I
Yeah,
said that at the beginning of the season. I think Arkansas is a top 5 program.
Yeah, they're
And you're right. They
very
lost to
good.
Duke. They, had the tie with Notre Dame, but or was it a lot? I can't remember. They've been playing top ranked teams, but I mean, they've looked good in all of them. And they lost so many seniors last year too.
Yeah, and yet they're still one of, if not the favorites to win the SEC, right up there at the very top. I think they've got national title contender status in them. We'll see, obviously, how the rest of the season plays out, but I think they're one of those teams that you can't count out. when it comes to tournament time. They're learning as they go. They're figuring things out as they go. And this BYU team as well, kind of figuring things out as it goes as well. You saw a little bit of that youth. Remember, 9 freshmen on this roster, 3 of them in the starting lineup, as many as 5 or 6 playing massive, massive roles for this team. Sophie Savulich was one of the leading shot takers. I thought she had a very nice game alongside Ellie Wahlberg there. But you just saw some of those youthful moments as well. That maybe you didn't see quite as many of out of Arkansas. I know what Jen Rockwood does like out of losses is she likes to see how her teams respond. Most coaches say you learn more from a loss sometimes than you do from a win. This is why you challenge yourself and you put a challenging schedule in front of your teams. The big question, I think, headed up to Saturday night was how would BYU respond to a disappointing loss, or first loss of the year, against an opponent, an in-state rival that has really had BYU's number for the last couple of years. Saturday night, Southfield, it was another ticketed sellout, which I was really impressed with. I need to mention that because it went up almost directly against a BYU football home game against Stanford, literally about 2.5 hours apart, as well as the Utah Royals game, by the way. So some of us may or may not have been making the big bucks because they got called up to the NWSL ranks there as well. So shout out to Cougar Nation for really showing out in this one. And after that first loss of the year, Mia Getchie comes off the bench, scores her first brace of her freshman campaign to pick up a much needed, I think, 2-0 win against Utah State. And I will just mention this because I know you followed the Aggies for the last couple of years very closely. I followed the Aggies the last couple of years very closely. Utah State's had BYU's number big time since Maddie Martins got there. They were 0-14 all time against the Cougars before Maddie showed up, 3-1-1 against BYU under Maddie Martins. For in the first 5 meetings right there. Their lone loss came in the first round of that 2023 NCAA tournament, by the way. So unbeaten against the Cougs in the regular season. Have I stressed enough that this was a very difficult game, but I think in the end a much needed 2-0 result for BYU.
Yeah, you definitely need that after a loss. And you're right, playing an in-state team I think does carry a different feel to it because they're both in the same state and because so many of the, girls on the field played together. Utah State recruits heavily out of the state of Utah, as so does BYU, and a lot of those people recognize each other. And so I agree that I think there's a little bit of a different feel to it, and because there's a different feel to it, you want to get that win. I'd say the same thing about UVU, in the upcoming game because of that proximity. It's important that you win it, just to get it behind you, so that you can have a little bit of relief. And so, for BYU, you give them credit to be able to get 2 goals, and Getchie to be able to get 2 goals early, in the first half. I was calling the Royals game at that time, but I was trying to check in on the score line every now and then. We had a weather delay in the Utah Royals game, and so I tried to check in on statistics during that weather delay. And, it's always good to see a freshman coming off the bench and be able to make those big plays. Looking at the goals now, they were opportunistic goals. And I say that as a compliment because as a forward, sometimes the goals you're going to score are because you're in the right place at the right time. And so I think that's good for BYU too, to just get 2 in, put Arkansas behind them. And now that they have the W under their belt again, it's easier to move forward onto the season.
You mentioned it, Mia Getchie, first career brace. She's got 3 on her freshman campaign now, the freshman out of Eastvale, California. And these were 2, well, the first goal, maybe not so pretty, but they all count the same. The second goal in particular was one that was just a really nice interplay from Hallie Dixon out on the wing. She lobbed across into the box. Mia actually told me a little bit after the match that the 2 of them sort of had that visual communication, that eye contact that a striker sees with the midfielder sometimes, like, hey, make a run, I'm going to send the ball in right now. She knew that it was coming, connects with just a perfect glancing header to flick into the back of the net against a very good goalkeeper that the Aggies got up there in Taylor Rath. And she mentioned afterwards that she sort of let she's a former high school volleyball player. She played volleyball in high school. And she kind of let some of those volleyball instincts take over in some ways, just rising up and getting that contact, connecting in the right way. It was the type of goal that I know you followed Mia a little bit in the youth ranks, certainly since she committed to BYU. But the kind of goal that you can't necessarily teach in some ways. Like, yes, you can teach chemistry, you can teach that play, that kind of thing, but it just that overall athleticism, that overall timing, that overall sense of just knocking it in with the head, like that's a really difficult thing to teach. And I honestly thought it kind of illustrated just how good BYU was in the air against Utah State team that really came out flying after they were down 2-0. They ended up out shooting BYU. I think by quite a bit. They put up something like 23, 24 shots against that defense. But what do you think this type of a game does in particular for a freshman like Mia Getchie, Carla?
I would like to think that for Mia, it just reaffirms perhaps the belief that she has in herself and the belief that her coaching staff has in her. When I see Mia take the field, I don't get freshman fear or insecure vibes at all. She seems very composed and she seems very experienced despite her young age. And so getting a goal like that, if anything, reaffirms, okay, I was right, I'm doing well. My coaching staff thinks I'm doing well. And of course, it's going to even give a confidence boost going into the next few games. It's good for BYU too because they have such a young team. If they can get goals and if they can get on the end of goals really quickly in someone's freshman year, they can expect that to become more of a habit as they start to get older as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Also notable, Sophie Savulich, who Mia entered. So Mia played a pretty extended period of minutes. Sophie Savulich picked up a little bit of a knock. We'll see kind of how that translates in the day-to-day moving forward. And on the same injury front, Mackenzie Vance made her season debut. I thought she had some really nice minutes, played about 30, 35 minutes for this BYU team as they just get a little bit healthier in a lot of areas of the field. She brought a really necessary spark in the attack, did a great job setting up some of those plays. I think she set up Hallie on that second goal, kind of like a third, fourth assist type of pass in there. So really nice seeing her there. Ella Labrum also made her season debut. And then the really big one, first career start for Kate Denny at center back in place of Avery Frischknecht. Frischknecht, we do expect to be out for multiple matches as she nurses a little bit of a knock. She's had some injury struggles in the past. Nothing too long-term from what I've heard, but probably a couple of games, multiple games at the very least, as BYU tries to get her back by conference play or right around the beginning of Big 12 play in there. How do you feel like Kate Denny kind of handled a lot of the pressure? Because I thought she was really good in a position that's a little bit different. She came in as more of a defensive midfielder, transitioned into a center back role for Avery, and I thought she paired really nicely with Izzy Stratton for her prolonged stay.
I think she's great. I think very highly of Kate Denny just from what I've seen in games, but also what I saw in the summer trainings and practice. I think she's a player, we've said this before, that can play anywhere. And she's smart. She gets along well with her teammates, not just off the pitch, but on the field, has good chemistry. And so I think that's a very good replacement for Avery, who you had mentioned is going to be gone due to injury for a little bit. I think she's going to hold things pretty steady. Denny's very athletic, and so she's able to make recovering runs. She's able to make good tackles. And so, as much as you never want to see any of your players injured, and as much as Avery is an important part, Avery Frischknecht is an important part of the BYU defensive line, I think Denny's not going to have any problem stepping in and working with Izzy Stratton, to hold the defensive line steady. That's not something that, would worry me if I was on the BYU coaching staff, even having one of my main center backs be gone. Only time will tell as far as defensive leadership and shape. I think over the next few games we'll get an idea. But that's not something she does alone. That's something she'll have to communicate with Izzy Stratton, who has a ton of leadership and experience behind her, and then Peyton Collins, right? Peyton's the one that can see the entire pitch and ultimately should be making the final decisions with her defensive line. So, I'm excited to see more of Denny in these next few games and to see, we already know she's athletic. We already know she's a good defender, to see if she can bring some more of that leadership out onto the pitch.
100%. So BYU soccer moves to 4-1-1 on the season, following a little bit of mixed bag of results, responding really well from the first loss of the year to then number 13 Arkansas with the 2-0 shutout of Utah State. Friday night is the final non-conference match of the season. BYU, Utah Valley, Southfield, another tough in-state opponent. I think Crystal May's team has really started to find their footing a little bit, just barely picked up a big 3-2 win over LSU. It was their first win over an SEC program in program history. This is a really good team. Another big time, not just in-state opponent, crosstown opponent. Two teams that are separated by about 4.5 miles in total between Southfield and UCCU Stadium. They're up in Orem. As always, you can, if you can't make it out to Southfield, you can catch the match on ESPN Plus with my co-host Carla Swensen-Haslem most of the time when she's not being called up for greater and grander things in the ranks of the NWSL. We love it when she slumps it with us. Carla, any final thoughts as BYU looks ahead to the final match of a 5-game homestand against UVU and also looks to wrap up conference play or non-conference play, before opening Big 12 play next week against ASU?
I think you said it perfectly that this is the last game before conference play. And so I think it's crucial that the Cougs get a win and that they go into conference play off a high. It's also crucial they get a win because they will be playing against so many former teammates. 7, 8, I can't remember how many players transferred from BYU to UVU. So there'll be a lot of recognizable faces as well, which is fun. But again, also important for BYU to try to get that win. Coach LeMay's team is well prepared. I've seen them play. They're talented. They're athletic. It will be a great game. It will be a good soccer game. So tune in because I think you're going to see a lot of action.
Yep, 100%. Thanks for joining us once again on the Rock and Royal Soccer Show, now live in video even. So check us out at Rock and Royal Pod on YouTube, Rock and Royal Pod on Instagram if you want to get involved in some of the conversation there. We've been a little bit busy, probably too busy over on the Instagram feed. So sorry for cluttering up your feeds. We really do apologize for that. I'll try to get more Carla content out there, trying to get her more on the IG bus. She has much more of a face for Instagram than I do.
I haven't been on Instagram in like 8 months. So I got to change that. But where is the time with so much soccer to analyze? Where is the time?
So much work, so much breakdown, so much in the day job, so much in the night job. Sometimes the night job is more than the day job, as they say. But you do a great job keeping on top of it. You really do, Carla. So appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you guys here. Download us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those good places.
Let's get it.
And as always, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Rockin' Royal, rockin' Navy. Know y'all with me. Let's get it, baby. Rockin' Royal, rockin' Navy. Know you with me. Let's get it, baby. Boys just came back from their mission. We going crazy. Kalani got no problems. You could call him Jay-Z. Best fans up in the nation since the 1980s. Strength staff keep us working. Yeah, we never lazy. Touchdown, Cougs is who they want now. Red is upstate and we don't do no uptown. Had them singing like a flute. We don't play around with no oops or them Aggies.